Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, LuAnn. LuAnn has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. LuAnn brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Today is a special show. It is a sponsored show. It's sponsored by Cruelty Free Designs. And if you remember, Cruelty Free Designs is the brainchild and the love project of Deborah Rosenberg of Damari Designs in Miami, Florida. Deborah was on the show for both episodes 82 and 117. And now she is sponsoring 3 shows to tell you, her colleagues, all about cruelty-free design, about what it means to be cruelty-free design, the resources for cruelty-free design, and I'll also have a special episode with a designer that has taken her course. So I hope you enjoyed this little series. The first one is today. Okay, so stay tuned, and I'm going to start the show right now with Deborah Rosenberg. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, LuAnn?
I'm terrific, and I'm so happy to welcome you and this little interesting new thing that we've come up with where, Cruelty-Free Design, Deborah Damari Designed Interiors is sponsoring this little series of shows on this topic that is so near and dear to you as a person, as an interior designer, as a businesswoman. And we're going to, this first episode of this sponsored series, we're going to take a little bit of time to just give the backstory for everybody on why it is so personal to you and what exactly is happening in the industry that you can give us some insight on as to why this is an important thing for us to think about. And I just also would like to say that we did have Deborah in episode 82, so that's a corollary episode to this, which might fill in some gaps, but we're going to sort of cover that ground again in a little bit more detail. So, Deborah, you've launched on this cruelty-free design. You've developed this certification course, and tell us why it was important to you and how it came to be a thing for you and your firm to develop this program.
Well, as you know, and I don't want to repeat myself, but it was a little bit of, I don't like to use the word journey because I always think of, but it was a little bit of a journey, this whole becoming cruelty free. As I had mentioned prior, my family and I, we love animals, and we've always had animals, and pets have been a very important part of our life, a very integral part of the family. And slowly, I started opening those videos that, we get from friends and people we don't even know on animal cruelty. And when I started seeing what is really going on in the world, your ignorance can only hold out so long, I think. And I could only keep my head in the sand for so long. And when I saw a video on the Chinese dog festival, the LuAnn dog festival, that was one of the first things that really hit home for me about how all these thousands of dogs are taken and killed in atrocious ways for a festival, which then led to the dog leather industry, finding out that leather, most of the leather in the world comes from China. It's then tanned in India, but it comes from China. And much of the leather comes from dogs. And why that should be any worse than coming from a cow or a kangaroo or a seal or a cat, I don't know. But I guess because we have such a strong connection to dogs.
Right.
And when I found out about that, I really started doing my research. And what I uncovered was horrible. And I then made the decision that, I'm living a lie by promoting product within my company that is made from animals when I really know what's going on. And I know that, 20 geese had to suffer to make this pillow, and that it took 8 cows dying a horrible death to make the leather hide for this sofa. So I transitioned my entire business to become cruelty free. And that was a very, very big undertaking, but I felt that there was really no turning back. And it would have been extremely hypocritical of me to try to do that. And I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror, quite honestly.
What was the thing? What is the Chinese Dog Festival? What kind of festival kill? What is the point of that festival to kill? What is that?
It's a very old tradition, and they celebrate. It's an old Chinese tradition. And they gather up thousands and thousands and thousands of dogs. And if you just Google it, you'll see there's a million articles on it. And many influencers throughout the world are trying to put an end to it finally. Thank goodness for social media. You know, technology has really given us freedom to make changes now. And they take these dogs and they kill them. They eat dogs in China. The Chinese eat dogs. So they kill them. And it's said that the more torture that the animal goes through, the more power the dog has. So dogs are boiled, they're skinned alive. I mean, things that you just can't even, when I say the words, I just get goosebumps. It's just terrible. But that also goes on in the industry, you know, crocodiles, alligators, ostrich, fur, minks, foxes, rabbits. Many of them are also skinned alive.
Why? What is the point of skinning alive, Deborah?
Well, the point is that it's all about the numbers and it's all about money. And so the corporate giants that have these farms, the animals are not a living being. They are a commodity. They are a number. So perhaps with that day when they're on the Hermes farm skinning crocodiles, the thing that they use to electrocute the crocodile isn't working properly. So instead they'll use a crude knife and they'll try to cut the spine. So when you start to see in front of you with your own eyes. You know, I always say I can talk and talk and talk about it, but all you have to do is witness one of these many videos, and you cannot believe that we human beings are capable of what we are doing to animals. And you know, there's something also that really gave me a jolt to create the course. And that was when I heard about the term responsible. You know, you hear responsible wool, responsible fur. Well, that is the biggest bunch of bull.
Really?
There is no such thing as responsible wool. There is no such thing as responsible fur. And I can show you videos on, quote, responsible wool farms in Australia where they're literally picking the sheep up in the air, throwing them on the ground, breaking their neck because they were moving around too much. They even have a term for them. They call them downers. When the sheep are the ones that they've abused so much are dying, they call them the downers, and they just let them die by themselves in the corner.
The thing is, it's so horrible. What I don't understand is, like, I guess people like myself that have never, ever thought about this 1 minute. You know, you pick up a leather jacket, you put it on, it looks amazing, you're a rock star, walk out the door. I never having thought about it or looked into it, I would have made an assumption. Look, I understand at some level there is an animal that has given their life in order for me to wear this leather jacket or sit on this leather sofa. But I don't think it ever occurred to me that they needed to die a horrible death in order to give it to me. Now, I understand the reality of that, even that sentence. Why should they die at all? But, you know, I mean, we have leather in our cars. You know what I mean? Like we just ignore it. But when you point it out to me, my brain is just like, can't they give them a drug to go to sleep? Like, why does it have to be a horrible death? Like,
because it costs too much.
That's beyond me.
And remember, the consumers are demanding it. I mean, even though we have people like companies like Giorgio Armani, he started to ban fur. We have Stella McCartney, a very progressive fashion designer. Everything she uses responsible. She doesn't use real fur. She doesn't use real animal product in most of her clothing. But you have to understand, more and more people want fur. They just did a whole study. 10 years ago, people were demanding less fur than they are now because of all the celebrities and influencers taking over and wearing it. And I think also you don't make the connection. You can't make the connection.
You don't.
And you know, I used to walk around like a jerk with an Hermes bag, and I say that because I'm ashamed that I did. Now, and when I see what goes on, I thought I was the coolest thing in the world with my Hermes bag. I had a fur coat years ago.
Right.
Now I know when Hermes produces the ostrich leather, one of the most social, smartest animals. You should see them hanging on to their life before they put them down the chute to get destroyed. And I'll tell you something also, the Hermes bag, you know the little bumps on the famous Hermes bag?
Yes.
Those bumps are from the ostrich skin after they've ripped out the fur. Those are the bumps. So it's like the pores on your skin. So this is what we're celebrating. This is what people are walking around with, thinking that this is a beautiful thing. Meanwhile, you're walking around with blood, despair, and tragedy on you. And, sometimes I hear myself talk, like I'm hearing myself talk right now. And I'm like, do I sound like one of those crazy people? Yeah. But it's like, am I really becoming one of those crazy people? But you know what?
It takes crazy people like yourself to open our eyes.
Yes, because you know what? Some other person told me about it and kept sending me the videos. Yes. And once you see them, once you really understand this dark, dark, dark side of all of this, it is just awful, LuAnn. It's just awful. I mean, you should, just for rabbits, just for fur, the Angora rabbit. Rabbits are such quiet creatures. They're very, very quiet. You hear them on these videos screaming as their fur is being ripped out of them. Goodness. Screaming, and many of them just die from the shock and the pain.
That part of it, my brain can't make the connection to the necessity of doing it that way. Like, I just don't get it. How much more could it cost to give them a peaceful death? I mean, and that just also supports that it should happen anyway. But I'm just saying, if the whole world isn't going to just stop doing this, does they have to do it that way?
Well, they're also doing that. This is being done. This is very smart. All of this is mostly being done in other countries where there's no regulations and labor is very, very cheap. And, it's not only for the animals. Look at the tanneries in India. Tanneries are one of the most toxic places in the world. They're listed as one of the most toxic places in the world.
For the people working in them to work in them.
You take a look at the tannery videos. It is disgraceful. Do you know the average age of a tannery worker in India is 50?
Wow.
They work barefoot with bare hands up to their ankles in toxins and chemicals all day long. All day. Hepatitis, diseases, mutations. This dirty water from the tanneries then flows into the rivers. These are the rivers that children and adults are bathing in and getting their fish from.
Oh my goodness.
So it's just what it's doing to humanity. It's not only about the animals. Right. It's about human beings as well. It's all connected. Environmentally, it's all connected.
I have to say, you've mentioned, am I that crazy lady? Do I sound like that crazy lady? And
Aren't I fun to talk?
I mean, it's tough, I have to say. I love you very much, and I've come to love you very much since I met you last fall. But it is hard. But I have to say, in response to that, and just objectively, I know that you're like saying objectively, am I that crazy lady? And what I'm just saying, I'm just going to, how this is hitting me. Okay. I figure I consider myself a regular person. Okay. Yes. And I'm not an animal lover, but I'm not an animal hater either. I'm a neutral animal person. You know what I mean?
You're a neutral animal person.
Exactly. I had a dog, he died a very peaceful death. I loved him, but I didn't get another one because, the dog was because I had a kid. I don't have a kid anymore. I don't need a dog anymore. You know what I'm saying? And but the thing is that when you say, am I that crazy lady? I have to say, a person who has never, ever taken any time to watch these videos or to have any interest in this field. It's like I have no interest in marine biology either, right? It's like that's, to me, it's like, okay, that's not what I do. Somebody else in the world is taking care of that. But when I have to say, when you just maybe on the news, something will come up with a PETA demonstration, and that's where that connotation comes from. Am I that crazy lady that's, doing this? Because what we as bystanders that are not motivated to understand it at a level deeper than the surface level, we just think of, oh, that's a crazy PETA lady or a crazy lady that's, going to be a demonstrator or whatever. But what I love about learning and getting to know you, Deborah, over these last several months is that you are expelling and dismantling what the rest of us could just write off as crazy animal lover lady. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's not you're actually talking about it intelligently. You're not screaming and carrying on. So therefore, I can't just comfortably rationalize to myself, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to her. She's a lunatic. It's like, it's hard not to pay attention to what you're saying. And I said this to you back in our first interview in the fall. I don't really want to know more about this, Deborah. I'm not able to have this capacity yet where I have to clean out my life of all of these things. And I knew it when I met you, that the more I talked with you, the more it would be harder and harder for me to push it to a corner of the mind.
I do get into the brain.
I have to say.
But you know what, LuAnn, you just made an important point.
Yeah.
It's not. Look, my company went 100% cruelty free, and then the course was created and the licensing. But for most people, that's a very, very big undertaking. So it's even just about, for example, for designers, it's just about having the education so you could perhaps offer one product. And a lot of times, many designers, they really think about it afterwards. If you're doing a home for a family with 6 kids, are you really going to do real leather? No, you'll probably be sourcing a great faux high-end leather because you want it to be durable. You don't want it to smell.
Right.
They have pets. You want it to last. If you're doing a commercial space,
right,
chances are you're not going to be a high-traffic commercial space. There's a good chance you're not going to be using a real leather,
right,
or real silk. You're going to be using a faux.
Right.
So without you realizing it, you're probably using more faux alternatives than you initially thought within your array of other selections. But it can just be something that you're offering to the customer because forget all the emotion. Let's put that aside, the ethical reason for doing this, okay? Business-wise, it's an economical decision that is going to benefit you because from all the research we're doing, you will be losing business out to your competitors who are addressing the socially conscious consumer.
Right.
56% of Americans stop buying from brands they believe are unethical.
Right, right.
That's a huge number.
It's the truth. Well, because it goes back to what you said a few moments ago. With the internet and all of the information available to us, now we know the companies that are not ethical, and we can find out the practices of them. And you're right. We live in an age where more and more people are willing to say, I won't purchase from this company because of their practice of XYZ. And so from a marketing standpoint, you're expressing that, even if you're not passionately going to cleanse your entire home and everything else. From a marketing standpoint, it's talking about being on the curve of something.
Yes. And again, it's just having the education or having the 1 or 2 items that you can promote. Doesn't have to be your entire inventory. It could just be 1 or 2 things. And you can also, as a designer, you can just have the education. Just having that education. I mean, just go on Facebook. Look at all the celebrities, the influencers that are so into animal activism and so into the environment, saving the environment, because it's all connected. I mean, this going vegan and providing vegan alternatives has a lot to do with the environment and humanity as well, because it's all connected, just as it is with the tannery workers.
Right.
I mean, also look at the numbers. 16 million people in the U.S. are now vegan or vegetarian. And most of them, almost half of them, became that way after they saw a film about animal abuse. So it's not even, you would think that they all did it because of health reasons.
Right.
No.
Right. No.
Almost half of them did it because of what they saw. They saw that dog leather video. Yes. And so this is the new consumer. You have over 180 million consumers that are socially and conscious now, and they only want to purchase things and be made aware of what's available to them that will work within their philosophy on life.
We just had it this week at WindowWorks. We had a young couple, probably early 30s, I would say. And literally Kim came back and said to me, the entire discussion with selecting the window treatments was she wanted window treatments that had no polyvinyl chloride in it because she wanted no off-gassing. And we have seen, PVC, solar screens are made with PVC. I mean, it's the hottest, window treatment on the market right now. And I have to say, I've never felt like I could smell the PVC. You know, maybe when it's brand new and it comes out of the package and, you know, yada, yada. But what she knows is that it's off-gassing. And I guess if, you know, you think about it logically, if I can smell it when we unwrap it in the package, if I don't smell it an hour later, it's because it's dissipated into my environment, right? But it just goes to show that the generation of consumers coming up are much more educated to these world issues that you are talking about, and therefore requesting them and wanting to know and having them as part of their criteria in their interior design firms. And your point is that even if you don't, as a designer, have made a commitment to really, obviously, number one, create this certification program for other designers to educate themselves, and you influence, and everything you do in your own design is influenced and marked by it. But what you're saying is, just know about it. No different than if you learned about aging in place, so that if one client came along and happened to be, a senior or something like that, understand about the industry and understand what it is out there, so that even if you're not going to take the direction for your whole company, when you have the opportunity and a client comes along that this is important to them, you have no different than any other CEU or education course that you would take, is what your point is.
Right. And it can also be approached. There's so many different ways that it can be approached. Again, look, you're not a dog lover. You're not an animal lover. No problem. But what about your clients? Look, 30%, I think it's 30% of adults and 40% of kids in this country suffer from allergies. The numbers are huge. Just by offering just a couple faux alternatives. I mean, they're perfect for anyone with allergies. Faux fur. Right. Faux leather. Right. Using a faux wool alternative. I would never put the real thing in for a client who has allergies, or someone who has a child with autism, for example, in the spectrum of autism, because most people within the spectrum of autism have sensory challenges, meaning they're very sensitive to smells and textures. So I would never put a scratchy, gamey smelling wool, because they can smell that. You and I might not be able to smell it, just as your client was being sensitive to it. Right. But someone typically with sensory issues has a very hyper sensitive sense of smell and touch. So they can smell the leather. They can smell it and they don't like it. It's years ago I realized I was ahead of the trend. I remember when my clients used to want to get leather headboards, I would always say leather headboards are great, but just understand it's going to smell like leather. So as long as you're okay with that smell. And I didn't realize it then because it was years ago. But, that was like...
Leather's going to smell like leather.
It's going to, because some people are very sensitive to smell.
Right. And it's one thing, like, well, look at how many times you heard the saying of the new leather smell in a car, right? The new car smell, right? Yeah. But the thing is, what you're expressing is that parents with children with autism, which is, absolutely on the rise and rampant in our world right now, that's
one in 40 children.
That's insane. But that's one way to just bring a little measure of comfort to that child's environment. Yes. I mean, there's so many other things that the child is challenged by and has to face, but that's one way that it's an easy switch to make, right? It's an easy thing to do. Easy. Yes.
Look, that's been one of my niches for many years, where I design spaces as well as doing, the ultra luxury, this and that. I do design spaces for people in the spectrum of autism. And it's all connected, because it's basically as clean a material and texture as you can get. You don't want it to smell. That's the bottom line. You don't want it to smell. It must be durable. Yeah. It must be easy to clean, and it must be resistant to high traffic.
I love it. I think it's really very important what you're doing, Deborah, and I know that it's a true passion for you, but I do recognize the other side of it. What you're saying is it could just be truly further education for yourself as an interior designer, awareness for yourself, and empathy for your clients and so forth like that. And I love it. And I think that, we're going to do this series here, and I'm just going to let everybody know that the next part is going to be vegan alternatives. We've got a whole discussion coming up with Deborah on, look, this information Deborah has collated and researched and put together after years of doing this. And when you take her certification course, all of this in its full breadth is available to you. But she is going to, on our next episode with this sponsored series, really give some of those actual specifics so that you're getting some good, a good bouncing off place, that if you just want to put your toe in the water, you're going to come away with actionable resources and things and alternatives that you can incorporate into your design firm. And then what we're going to do is the next episode is going to talk about branding and marketing that, and her experience in branding and marketing and her insights on how she did it and some tips and understandings for you to duplicate it. And then the last episode is going to be featuring an interview with a designer who has been through the certification course and how it's informed her business, her design firm, and the revelations and the results and the outcomes that she has experienced from going through the certification course. So I'm so happy to do this with you, Deborah. I think it's extremely important. Yes, I really am. And I'm looking forward to the next episodes, and all of you guys out there should be too.
Oh, you know what I wanted to mention? The course is now accredited.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So that's great.
So you mean when you say accredited, you mean it's a CEU, designers. Right? So they go to their continuing education units. Awesome. So that's terrific. I love that. Yeah. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, until we do our next episode, thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you so much, LuAnn. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.